Here are 3 of them.
Hey, if you're a Mac user, this one's for you. I've got 3 rules you should definitely follow to help save you time every day. Time is money. Time is money. Let's go.
Rule number one. When naming your files, use dashes, not underscores.
Okay, rule number 1, don't do this. Notice how I named this file with underscores? The reason why you don't want to do this is, let's say you just want to change this version 1 to version 2, right? So you might think you can click once to rename the file and then just double click here on the 01 to isolate it and change the text from 01 to 02. But alas, when you double click, notice it helps you not.
What the fuck?
It just reselects the entire text. Useless, useless, useless. This is what's going to happen when you use underscores in your file names. As a better alternative, do this instead. Notice here how I used dashes instead of underscores. So now, click once to rename the file, and then double click here on the 01. Notice it isolates just the 01 and not the rest of the text, so I can easily type in 02 to rename the file. Couldn't do that with underscores. Easy to do with naming your files with dashes. So one thing you might be wondering is, well, what about if I just use spaces? So like this JPEG here, right? I just left a space, no dash, no underscore, just a space in the file name. That's fine if you're just working locally on your Mac, dragging files around, whatever. But let's say you want to share this file online. So if I drag this Studio Space display into a web browser, notice in the file path here, I recommend you avoid spaces in file names because when you put these files online, web browsers must replace each space with the placeholder %20, creating links that are messy and can sometimes break when shared. So beware, don't post files online that have spaces in them because you're going to run into this problem very quickly. Instead, notice what happens if I have a dash in this file name. If I drag it into web browser again, notice the file name is retained exactly as it is. So it's much easier to share these files and also links to these files online if you use dashes, not spaces.
Number two, use the Option key when editing text.
Let's pick up where we left off with how we name our files using dashes instead of underscores. So if I click here, press the return key to select the text. If I press the right arrow key, it'll move it to the end of the selection. What I want to show you is using the Option key here in naming files and stuff. Just check this out. If I hold the Option key and hit the left arrow, notice how it jumps between each of these different segments that we broke it up with, right? With the dashes, right? So real quick, let's go back to how I told you to not do things with the underscores, right? So notice here with the underscores, if I press the Option left key, nope, it just jumps straight back and forth to the beginning and the end. You don't get those individual breaks, being able to select each individual word and jump between each individual word. So again, just more emphasis on don't name your files with underscores, instead use dashes. If you press return, notice it selects the file name completely. If I press the up arrow, it'll jump to the start of the whole file name. If I press the down arrow, it'll jump all the way to the end. Now hold the Option key and press the left arrow and it'll jump just that little bit. You see? So every time you press the Option left or right, you can jump between these little blocks that are created. So it's much easier to jump around instead of just tapping left, right. So you get to jump within your file name. And if you have long file names with a lot of different parts, this can be really handy to just quickly jump to exactly where you want to get to. And one more thing I'll mention here is not only can you jump between these areas, but you can also select them too. And all you have to do is add the Shift key while you're holding the Option key. So check this out. I hold Shift, Option, and left arrow. It'll select just that little 4K portion. Press it one more time. It'll also grab the loop portion. Grab it one more time, the next chunk, and the next, and the plus, and the whole thing, right? And even if I'm still holding everything, if I hold the right arrow, it'll go back. You can kind of expand and contract your selection by holding Shift, Option, and left, right arrows, right? All right, let's look at a proper chunk of text here, right? So here we have 3 paragraphs of text. Let's touch on some of the basics in case you didn't already know. But basically, if the cursor's here on one line of text, you can hit Command and left arrow to jump to the start of the line. You can press Command and right arrow to jump to the end of the line. If you want to get to the top of your document, you can press Command up, and the bottom of your document, Command down. Okay, so those are some of the basics. Don't use the Option key. That's just with the Command key. Hopefully you're already aware of that, but if you're not, now you are. So let's work now within one line of text, right? Here, I just clicked and dragged, but the cursor's there. What I want to show you is you can use the same trick like I used before. Hold Option and left arrow to jump word by word within one line. And you can actually go, it'll just keep going from this line to the next line and just keep jumping back or jump all the way forward, right? Cool, right? So same thing before, like I showed you with the file names. Now, if you add the Shift key, it'll select as you go left and right? So let me jump back to this word happy here. I'm gonna hold Shift and Option and go left, right? And it's gonna highlight and select all these words, right? And it'll just keep going back. And if I press the right arrow, it'll undo it. And once I get to the point where the cursor was, I'm still holding Shift Option the whole time. Now, if I press the right arrow, it'll select the words all to the right of it. So with the cursor here, what if instead of going word by word to select, let's just say I want to highlight everything on the line to the left of where the cursor's at. Well, instead of holding Shift Option left arrow, you just hit Shift Command left arrow. Bam. Select everything on that line to the left of where the cursor is. If I press the right arrow to come back to where I was, it deselects the selection. If I want to do the same thing to the right, select all the text to the right of the cursor, Shift Command right arrow. There you go. Right. So if I press right, it'll move to the end of that selection. And if I want to select the whole line, I can say Shift Command left arrow. So there you go. Before we go on to the next rule, I want to show you one other thing you can do with the Option key, which is you're somewhere here in the paragraph, right? Let's say we're right here. Just like you can do Option left right to go word by word jumping. If you want to go to the start of the paragraph you're currently in, hold Option up arrow and it'll move to the start of the paragraph. Now hold Option down arrow, of course, it'll move you to the end of the paragraph. So just so you know, you can use Option in any direction to basically go left, right, or jump the cursor to the start of a paragraph with up, or down will bring you to the end of a paragraph. And if you want to select the whole paragraph, we'll add the Shift key. Shift Option up will select the whole paragraph. Now remember, it depends where the cursor is, right? So if the cursor is here and I hold Shift Option up, it's only going to select up from where the cursor was. But after doing that, I can immediately just tap the down arrow and it'll select everything below where the cursor is. So within 2 clicks, the cursor can be anywhere in your paragraph and you can immediately select the whole paragraph with just 2 clicks by simply doing Shift Command up and Shift Command down. So yeah, if you're not used to using the Option key when editing texts, start doing so. Give it a whirl.
Rule number three, stop using Command plus I.
Okay, real quick here for rule number 3. We got 3 files here in this folder, 3 animated GIFs. And I select one, and what I'm going to show you is, most people probably are already familiar with this. If you hit Command I, it'll bring up the Get Info pop-up window here, which shows you a preview of the GIF, but also file information. That's fine. This is what people are normally used to. But what if you wanted info for this other file, Superman.gif? So you would have to select it and then hit Command I to bring that up. So this is just 3 files, but if you're working with a ton of files, you're gonna have a lot of these Get Info windows popping up. And what I wanna show you is if you just kinda wanna cycle through a bunch of images or files, whatever, videos, anything, the better way to do this is not to just hit Command I, but if you go up here to the File menu, see Get Info, Command I, notice what happens when, once again, the key of the day, the Option key. When I hold the Option key, notice it changes it to Show Inspector. So this is totally different than Get Info. It's a whole new thing. It's called Show Inspector, right? So the only way you can access it is by holding the Option key, right? So back here in Finder, instead of just hitting Command I, we're gonna hit Option Command I, and notice what happens. So on first glance, it's basically the same thing that the Get Info window was, right? In fact, here, I'll even, with Superman GIF still selected, I'll hit Command I. Okay, so this is the regular Get Info window, and this is the Inspector window, right? So they look basically the same. But notice what happens if I select a different GIF. Oh, look, this one updated automatically on its own. This one didn't. Why? Because this is a typical Get Info window that only shows info for the one particular file or whatever was selected when you first press Command I to bring it up in the first place, right? So it doesn't change dynamically. Whereas the Inspector, this window, will always change dynamically depending on what the current selection is. So if you want a dynamic Get Info window to show info of whatever you're currently selecting, and by the way, this works for multiple files as well. See, if I select these 3 files, notice this still stays the same, but even though I've selected 3 files, now the Inspector has updated info about the selection of the 3 images, dynamically displayed depending on what's currently selected. So that is the Inspector. If you weren't familiar with it, now you are. Go nuts, start using this, incorporate it into your workflow. It's just gonna be so much quicker than if you were just using the Get Info window by hitting Command I. The Option key is once again your friend. Use Command Option I to launch the Inspector.
3 rules. Want to keep boosting your productivity and leveling up your creative skills? Well, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And while you're waiting for the next new video, check out one of these to learn more right away.